Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I. I'm not going to say sanctimoniously notorious anymore because someone said, oh, that's demeaning to me. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to call myself the master of fun and wonder, the viceroy of verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett, here with Robservations number 222. I got Gilbert here. He couldn't wait till I went live. He had to just go devour cookies right now, and you've got him. And Tallulah is patiently waiting on the floor. So, Gilbert, you got to get down now. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming on. I know how everybody loves to see Gilbert. I don't know why they're just so eager about their cookies today, but they certainly are. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Robservations, the show about something. As my windscreen is the dogs are crazy today. But this is episode number 222. My God, thank you, all of you imagination connoisseurs, all of you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. This week, my friends, is an important week. Yes, it is. Do you know what this week is? Do you know what is supposed to happen on Friday of this week? That's right. A bunch of people are supposed to storm Area 51 in the Nevada desert. Now, everyone knows what Area 51 is. It's supposedly the place where we have been storing alien technology for the better part of, 70 years. That's right. It was popularized in popular culture for decades. Of course, in the X-Files, for sure. And there's a group of people that want to know the truth. So maybe they started it as a joke. Maybe they started it out as something to troll everybody with. But apparently this Friday, a bunch of folks are going to show up and try and storm a secret military installation. What could go wrong? What could go wrong, I ask you? Now, it really got me thinking about the idea of crashed alien technology and extraterrestrials. Not like I don't surround myself with alien spacecraft on a daily basis, but I have to ask myself, do I really believe the United States government has been sitting on alien technology all of this time? I used to read when I was a young whippersnapper. When I was like 10, 11, 12, I read every single book at the Mercer Island Public Library about UFOs, the Bermuda Triangle, spontaneous human combustion. I read it all. Any book about strange phenomenon, I was there. I could talk your ear off. I even found out that one of my dad's very good friends, Captain John Harder, who was a World War II pilot, was once mentioned in a UFO book. And I got to interview him. Again, I was like 10. I was like, Captain John, did you really see a UFO? He kind of laughed and sort of had an answer for me that was very non-committal. And I knew right then why people believe in cover-ups, because he certainly was shining me on as a young 10-year-old boy. So who knows what's the truth? Who knows what's reality? I do know this. If you're going to storm a secret military installation and you basically have to run across 20 miles of open desert in the heat, you're probably not going to get the answers that you're looking for. That's all I'm saying. And if you're not going to be running and you're going to try and do it with a vehicle, you're a big target. I want to say the American military, for those of you who don't know, best military in the world. They've got incredible equipment. They can zero in on you from space and drop all kinds of weapons on you before you have a chance to take a selfie. That's all I'm saying. I think for anybody who's choosing to storm Area 51 this weekend or Friday, it's the 20th. It's Friday, September 20th is Storm Area 51 Day. I would just say probably not a good idea. But ultimately, if you want to do it, please report back. Send me a super chat. Tell me what you find out, because I, too, like Fox Mulder, I want to know if the truth is out there. But then it got me thinking about aliens. Here's the thing. I want to believe that there are aliens. I know you all want to believe that there are aliens. We all want to believe that there are aliens. We all want to believe they exist. As a matter of fact, I'd like to believe that we are, in fact, sitting on alien technology. We must have shot down an alien spacecraft by accident, or maybe one just, was in battle with another alien race and crashed in the Arizona desert or crashed somewhere else. And the Americans were able to get to it first and bring the wreckage back to Area 51. And we've been pillaging that alien technology. I think we have cell phones and hair dryers and microwave ovens because we have been stealing alien technology for the last 70 plus years. And why not? Why shouldn't we? I mean, finders keepers, right? But anyway, it really got me thinking about the alien creatures as depicted in the movies that we love. And there's a lot of them. We've been seeing alien creatures in movies for a long time. Of course, in the 1950s, when the UFO craze really started to take over, we got movies like Earth versus the Flying Saucers. We had Earthmen flying in a flying saucer in Forbidden Planet. We saw a great vision of War of the Worlds, of not set in Victorian England, but set here and now in Los Angeles. Well, at least in Los Angeles of 1953. And those aliens almost took us out. And for the better part of 70 years since flying saucers were spotted, and of course, we apparently have been in possession of crashed alien technology, aliens have captured our collective imagination for a very long time. Sometimes they're like the xenomorphs in Alien. You know, they'll gestate, they'll plant an egg in your stomach. A couple hours later, they'll explode through your chest and then grow into a 9-foot-tall xenomorph that will lay more eggs and ravage your body. Then, of course, we've seen aliens like E.T., childlike aliens with a sense of wonder that want to bring friendship and love into your life. They want to turn your heart light right on, warm you right up. There's been all kinds of aliens. Spock. Everybody loves Mr. Spock, right? Then why not? We've got Doctor Who's been fighting aliens for the better part of 50 years now. We just have a large, a wide array, a pantheon of aliens that we've seen in popular culture, movies, television, of course, novels. Novels got there first. I mean, there's so many different aliens in literary science fiction that are worthy of discussion. I mean, who can get enough? We all love aliens. So I basically woke up this morning with aliens on the brain. And you people out there, you, my loyal audience, you imagination connoisseurs of the Post-Geek Singularity, what do? You write me letters. And clearly some of you have devices in my brain. You know what I'm thinking. And why should it not surprise me that one of our favorites here, the delightful, the lovely, the PhD candidate, the woman who all of you love, Miss Willow Yang from Vancouver, BC, sent me a letter about this very subject. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Willow Yang, from her molecular biologist point of view, sent me a letter about aliens. Frankly, I couldn't believe it. She must have been reading articles about the storm in Area 51 business, and she figured, well, Rob he's going to talk about it today. I mean, he must. So anyway, I would like to start out by, first of all, reading an article that just dropped today at 11:30, which I read, on Gizmodo. And the article says, airspace near Area 51 will be closed to news helicopters and drones during the Storm Area 51 shit show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the actual headline. Matt Novak wrote it. Matt Novak wrote this, and it was filed at 11:30 a.m. And let me just read a little bit about from this article. Airspace around Area 51 in Nevada will be closed to news helicopters and drones this week in anticipation of the so-called Storm Area 51 event that started as a joke but has morphed into a potentially dangerous situation. The Federal Aviation Administration has posted temporary flight restrictions for 2 areas near Area 51 controlled by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Department of Energy. As The Drive points out, even police and medical helicopters are banned from the area without getting special permission, and the U.S. Air Force will likely have drone jamming equipment ready and available. Funny, maybe the Saudi Arabians should have had drone dampening equipment around their oil fields. I don't know. Over 2.1 million people, 2.1 million, not 21, 2.1 million people have signed up for a Facebook event called Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. They might not be able to stop all of you, but I believe the desert will do a pretty good job for them. That's just me. Which encourages people to break into the restricted military area in order to see them aliens. That's what it says, see them aliens. The Air Force's Area 51, roughly 75 miles north of Las Vegas, has served as a long-held fascination for conspiracy theorists who believe that extraterrestrial life forms are currently being kept there. While the site has a messy and complicated history, especially when it comes to nuclear weapons, It's unlikely that the U.S. government holds aliens at Area 51. There are a number of events that have popped up around the original Storm Area 51 Facebook joke, and the person behind the joke has now disavowed the bizarre stunt and warned people not to show up. One of the largest events, Alien Stock, will now be just a music festival in Las Vegas instead of an attempt to illegally storm a U.S. military facility. But it's unclear how many people might arrive at Area 51 anyway this week, despite the warnings. Area 51 is just a small part of the U.S. military's Nevada test and training range, 4,687 square miles of government land that's only slightly smaller than the state of Connecticut. The first area with the temporary flight restrictions is the southern end of the test and training range and will be enforced from Thursday, September 19th until Monday, September 23rd. Anything flying up to 18,000 feet is prohibited. The second area with temporary flight restrictions is close to the towns of Mercury and Rachel, Nevada, and will be in effect from Wednesday, September 18th until Monday, September 23rd. The flight restrictions for that area only go up to 7,000 feet because commercial planes sometimes fly over this space as an approach to the Las Vegas airport. If you are thinking about heading to Area 51 this week, you should probably just forget about it. The Air Force isn't going to tolerate anyone trying to trespass on its property, even if you think it's just a joke. Air Force spokesperson Laura McAndrews recently told the Washington Post that the area is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets, McAndrews continued. 2 Dutch YouTubers were arrested last week after allegedly trespassing in portions of the military installation, but they're just lucky to be alive. Back in January, a man was shot dead after going through a security checkpoint in the area, though details around the case are still sketchy. Yes, it's funny to think about a bunch of people storming Area 51 in an attempt to see aliens, but even if you try, you're not going to get very far. The original Facebook joke said that we can move faster than their bullets, but I assure you, you can't. That was not me. That was the author of this piece, Matt Novak. Again, posted this to Gizmodo at 11:30 this afternoon. Look, I look at it this way. We all want to believe in aliens. Who doesn't want to believe in aliens? And we all want to believe that the Earth and we are so goddamn important that any extraterrestrial civilization is going to travel here because they can't get enough of the Kardashians. I mean, honest to God, people, why do you think that if there's sentient life out elsewhere in the galaxy, it all is coming to Earth? I mean, what is this? The ultimate Burning Man planet? I doubt it. Anybody who has interstellar travel that can come to this planet is already disgusted by our atmosphere. I mean, anyone who's seen Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, what is the first thing that Spock comments on when they travel through time to 1986 Earth? How polluted the atmosphere is. We are not very good custodians of this planet or one another. So we're not exactly shining beacons of rationality. So would aliens really be coming here unless they were doing some zoological study of us? I don't know. But we, human beings, we believe we're the most self-important, awesome people in the universe. And we can't conceive of anybody that is not interested in us. Trust me, you should look at my Instagram feed. I'm telling you. But anyway, the question then remains, are aliens real? Do they exist? Could they possibly look or be anything remotely like they have been depicted in films and television and in novels over the last really 100 years? Well, I'd like to believe so, but science really doesn't bear that out. And for a little primer on that, leave it to the lovely Willow Yang to send us a letter that I think addresses this issue quite well. And now I don't know if Willow wrote this letter because of the Storm Area 51 event, or maybe it was something that I had said or maybe, like she says, it happened at a work retreat. But I'm just going to read this letter because I think Willow, as we all know, she is studying to be, she's going to get her doctorate in molecular biology. And she's quite the impressive woman, even though I've never met her or even spoken to her. I love her letters. Whenever she sends me a letter, I know that you get excited. I get excited, so much so that on the Burnettwork website, if you go to my website, theburnettwork.net, I gave her her own section called Willow Talk. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Willow Talk. I suggest you go to the website, check out her letters. They're always worth reading. And so is this one, which is why I'm going to read it right now. Greetings, Rob. Recently at a work retreat, my colleagues and I got into a discussion about extraterrestrial life and the gripes that we have over the depiction of aliens in science fiction. I'm writing to you now to provide some of my musings on the matter. As someone from the field of life sciences, I do suffer from a condition known as physics envy. I see what you did there with the P, physics envy. I don't know if this perception is accurate, but physicists just seem to be so much more intelligent and creative than I am. I cannot offer much insight into subjects like quantum mechanics or relativity or the properties of celestial bodies like black holes. I can, however, discuss biological life and what I think might be feasible. I will start off with alien appearances. With all the knowledge that we possess thus far, carbon does seem to be the best candidate for forming life. This is because carbon is a unique element in its versatility. It's capable of forming 4 valence bonds and can readily polymerize with other carbon atoms to generate large, complex molecules. Another element that exhibits similar bonding properties to that of carbon is silicon. The reason why silicon-based life appears less feasible than carbon is because the latter is a much more abundant element in the universe than the former. Additionally, carbon is more readily capable of bonding with other types of atoms than silicon is, a trait that is thought to be crucial for numerous metabolic processes necessary to sustain life. What my colleagues and I do find irksome about the appearance of aliens in media, however, is that all too often intelligent life is humanoid. I really don't see any reason why every race of aliens has to be bilaterally symmetrical, bipedal, hand-toting, forward-facing-eyed creatures other than a lack of imagination or a limited budget and technology. This is why I really appreciated life forms like the Horta that was featured in the Star Trek episode Devil in the Dark. Despite my aforementioned skepticism about the possibility of silicon-based life, the mimics from Edge of Tomorrow and the heptapods from Arrival. Personally, I would like to see science fiction get more creative in their imagining of aliens. I like that. So you think that science fiction filmmakers should basically get more jiggy with it when it comes to the alien races? I believe you. I'm with you 100%. Actually, I agree with you. The second subject that I would like to discuss is the concept of crossbreeding between humans and aliens. Doesn't matter whether it's a Arcturian baby, remember? Now, I will state this very clearly. I don't take any issues with interspecific relationships. Personally, I think that 2 consenting sentient life forms should have the right to do what they want. However, scientifically, I cannot abide the fact that humans often seem capable of reproducing with every humanoid species that they encounter in the universe. Even disregarding issues of morphological compatibility, there's the issue of genetic compatibility. Obviously, we cannot breed with any other species on Earth. We are too diverged from the other hominidae to be able to produce viable offspring. Even if other alien species share the same evolutionary origins as us, it will take the span of a few million years of reproductive isolation to generate genetic barriers that will prevent hybridization. Not to pick on Mr. Spock, but the more that I learn about Vulcan physiology, the more I'm convinced that they are too evolutionarily distant from humans to be able to crossbreed with us. The next generation, having come out in an era where knowledge of molecular biology and genetics is considerably more advanced, has actually touched on this issue. The half-Klingon Kalar in The Emissary mentions the need for genetic engineering to enable hybridization between humans and Klingons. Finally, and perhaps most interestingly of all, is the question of intelligence. Intelligent life, defined by complex language, self-awareness, and cognition, appears to have only evolved once on Earth. Oh yeah? How do you think the dolphins feel about you categorizing that way, Willow? Come on. But just because we don't have any other examples, should we use humans as the end-all, be-all measurement for intelligence? In science fiction, we do often encounter races of aliens that are more significantly advanced than us, but seldom are they actually more intelligent. We can often find ways to communicate with them or hijack their technology and use it to our advantage. To illustrate my point, let's use this analogy. Let's pretend that we can time travel back to the ancient Roman Empire and bring a group of humans from that era to the modern day. I think it's fair to assume that the Romans will be awed by our current machinery. Cell phones, planes, computers, satellites, atomic weapons, etc. But even though they are much less technologically advanced than we are, they aren't necessarily less intelligent. With the proper training, they can probably learn to use our modern day inventions. If we are to bring a few very young children from the ancient Roman Empire and raise them in modern day, chances they're going to be well adjusted. Can we do the same thing with a chimpanzee? Probably not. A few thousand years of difference may cause a large gap in technology, but not so much in intelligence. Several million years, however, can create quite a drastic difference. We are separated from bacteria by only about 4 billion years of evolution. The universe is estimated to be about 14 billion years old. All of the ingredients necessary to generate life became available just 1 to 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Is it possible that life could have emerged in some of the older solar systems billions of years before it did on Earth? Could there be aliens whose intelligence have evolved so far beyond our own perceptions that we are nothing more than a strain of bacteria in comparison? We would be able to have any would we be able to have any intellectual communications with them? Would we be able to even comprehend what they are? From everything that I know, I do feel quite confident in predicting that extraterrestrial life does exist in the universe and probably isn't all that uncommon. Unfortunately, there is just so much distance between us and our nearest solar systems that unless we can figure out a way to transport matter faster than the speed of light, we won't be able to make contact with any other life forms. The only hope we currently have of meeting aliens is if they came to us. This, of course, would necessitate the aliens to be considerably more scientifically advanced than we are. This has actually been a point of concern to Stephen Hawking, because if we look at our own Earth's history, whenever a more technologically advanced group of people encounter a more primitive one, usually things don't turn out so well for the latter. On the other hand, if the aliens are vastly more intellectually superior to humans, it is quite possible that they might not even take notice of us. They might overlook us, as we often do with bacteria, and we would not be able to understand what they are any more than a microbe would be able to understand what we are. My apologies if this notion depresses you. Until next time, Willow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, gentle beings, all of you crazy aliens yourself, people that don't fit in, whatever your belief system is, another great letter, a very thought-provoking letter from Willow Yang. So once again, Willow, thank you. And once again, you proved that there's a reason why on the Burnettwork.net website, there's a section called Willow Talk. Can you imagine hanging out with Willow and being able to have these conversations on a daily basis? I think Willow hits on a lot of great points. For those of you who don't know, I would suggest if you're interested in this subject, there's further reading to do. Look up things like the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox. And basically the Fermi paradox, I'll break it down in a nutshell. Fermi was I believe he was an astronomer, and he basically posits the idea that if you use mathematics and you calculate how many stars there are in the universe and how many planets probably exist and how many galaxies exist, and using us as an example, I don't know, I think Gilbert's upset by the notion that perhaps there are no intelligent canines anywhere in the universe. But he basically said that mathematics would support the fact that there are probably other intelligent life forms in the universe, and we should have heard from them. And that's sort of the paradox in a nutshell. It's an oversimplification. But one of the things that I've always thought was even more interesting is if you think about the development of humanity, and let's assume you're not a legalistic fundamentalist Christian, although I don't want to denigrate your beliefs if you are, but the idea, or even if you are and you believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old, there's only been a small period of time in human history where we've even been able to broadcast our existence. And let's say let's say the Vulcans, like with First Contact Day, somebody who might have been listening, another intelligent civilization was passing through our solar system 500 years ago. Maybe they only came as far as the orbit of Mars. Maybe they only came as far as Jupiter. And they were scanning our civilization or scanning our solar system for any kind of indication that there was life. Well, 500 years ago, humanity was not in any position to be broadcasting our location or that we even had the technology. And so they went right on by. I mean, when you think about how time works on a galactic scale, that might have been the only time anyone passed through this way. And that was it. And maybe they'll come back in another 1,000 years. You know, who knows? I mean, I'm always amazed that whenever I drive somewhere, like if you drive, I used to drive a lot from Seattle to Los Angeles. And a lot of the time I would just drive on I-5. But if you get off I-5, you know, pick some back road somewhere and you just start driving and you know, somebody put a logging road here or maybe a skiing lodge somewhere there. But even on our own planet, you can go get lost if you want. The Canadian wilderness, for instance. I mean, you get lost in the Canadian wilderness, who's going to find you? Who's going to be able to hear you? Like no one. So imagine that, apply that to a galactic scale. We're not even in the center of the Milky Way. We're in the Western Spiral Arm. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 90 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet. Back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So, and also our imaginations, it's very difficult, like Willow deftly pointed out in her letter, we tend to only believe in hominids, you know, basically things that look like us. And as she pointed out, the reasons why in science fiction films, even the xenomorph in his big chap form, the xenomorph still is ultimately, aside from that giant head, still has 2 arms and 2 legs because a guy has to play him. You know, E.T., I mean, that's still vaguely humanoid. All the aliens in Star Trek or Doctor Who, they all look the way they look because it's much easier to depict those kinds of aliens, especially on the budgets that 60s television was working with when Star Trek and Doctor Who first started. It was very difficult to depict true alien life forms. And one of the great things about science fiction novels is they're unfettered by the constraints of having to depict these things in 3 dimensions. When you're writing about aliens on the page, then you can do a lot more with them. And now with computer technology, we're able to do a lot more with them as well. But even the idea that aliens have journeyed here in spaceships is it's such a conceit of ours. I mean, mankind, even the way we've envisioned God is I mean, heaven and hell are actual locations. You know, I mean, some people say, well, no, it's not really a location, but it kind of is, you know. And I've always liked the idea that heaven and hell are places. Certainly one of the things I loved about Neil Gaiman's The Sandman is you could go to hell And Dream would go there frequently, and that's why he would run afoul of Lucifer Morningstar. And one of my favorite comics series of all time, or stories of all time, A Season of Mists, began when Dream went to hell and found out hell had been emptied. And we can only tend to think of, and we can only imagine, I mean, while we have science fiction writers that can imagine all kinds of aliens, but we can only really imagine things that our science has led us to believe in, or it's very difficult for us to imagine things that are outside of the realm of our experience, because how can we imagine something that's outside the realm of our experience? You know, we can't do that. So we tend to think of the idea that aliens came here in ships that vaguely resemble something we would know as ships. Flying saucers, maybe, because that's what we saw, apparently. And then this idea that there are pilots that you can I mean, the whole idea of Area 51 in the first place, the whole idea that alien ships crashed, there were pilots in those alien ships, and they arrived here, and we were able to recover those crashed alien bodies or crashed alien ship parts or whatever. This is such a conceit of humanity at the time. I mean, it's a good bet that our interstellar travelers, or what we're going to send out, are mechanisms. I think one of the great things for AI in the future is that rather than build generational ships that will spend however long to travel from one star system to another, assuming we can ever reach that kind of technology, we will probably have AIs doing it for us. We'll be sending out AIs everywhere. The smarter our AI becomes, the more we're going to be able to look at the galaxy, to explore our solar system. Maybe AIs will help us surmount the insurmountable problem of light speed, and we'll be able to actually create FTL drives or hyperdrive or whatever it is that we need. And how cool would that be? I'm just bummed out I'm not going to see it in my lifetime, you know. And I think that this idea of, it's such a human thing, and I know it's such a Robert Meyer Burnett thing or a Fox Mulder thing. I would love to believe in aliens, you know. And I have to tell you, even as a middle-aged man with one foot in the grave, I wouldn't mind spending the last years of my life evading an occupying alien force. Honestly, I think that would be kind of interesting and kind of fun. I mean, yeah, I might get fried in an alien death ray, but it would be cool, part of an underground fifth column movement that was resisting an alien uprising. I mean, ever since I was a little, or you would be the resisting in an uprising, resisting an alien invasion. I mean, ever since I was, you know, a little kid, one of my favorite book series, My Harry Potter, was John Christopher's The Tripods trilogy. The White Mountains, The City of Gold and Lead, and The Pool of Fire. I mean, I wanted to be the main character, and I wanted to go be an alien slave in a domed alien city working for the tripod aliens. I mean, I wanted to do that when I was 10. I didn't want to go to Harry Potter's wizarding world. I wanted to go live and be a human slave inside an alien city, working for aliens that were going to terraform the planet out from under us and then deliver the information I had gleaned back to the human resistance once I'd escaped, after I'd learned enough. You know, that's been a fantasy of mine. What that says about me, I don't know. Of human bondage, as long as it's aliens doing the bondage. Or, of course, you know, certain, I won't get into that. That's not that kind of a show. But I mean, there's something very, meeting an alien, if it would be something other than winning $1 billion. My second greatest wish, or maybe it's my first greatest wish in life, would be to meet an alien intelligence. I mean, E.T. is nothing but the ultimate wish fulfillment fantasy of any imagination connoisseur, I think. I don't know if girls, it'd be interesting. Has there been the girl version of E.T.? I mean, I'd like to see something like that. You know, there's the Host, that's Susanna, the woman who wrote the Twilight series. She wrote The Host, which I actually, you know, I kind of like that movie. But also the Fifth Wave. Boy, what a disappointing series that turned out to be. But one of my favorite, I know it's a YA book, but if you want to read an incredible alien invasion story, and the movie's, oh my God, the movie is god awful. But the book, The Fifth Wave, pretty interesting. As a matter of fact, just because, so you got big old Steve K, right? Steve K in the house. But Peter Hamilton, if you haven't read any Peter Hamilton, I just started this, but I have not. I obviously I just got into it, but I love Peter Hamilton. He writes big sci-fi, big ideas. This is a book about aliens. I want it to happen. I instead of Calgon, take me away. Klingon, take me away. I would love to see that happen. But Willow, I just want to say that in the Star Trek universe, they did kind of deal with that. And I just want to say that, and William Shatner, the mighty William Shatner, along with the Reeve Stevens, even wrote a Star Trek novel called Preserver. Now, in the third season episode, The Paradise Syndrome, we learned that the Preservers seeded the galaxy, or it was posited that they seeded the galaxy with humanoid races, which is why there are so many humanoid races in the Star Trek universe. They were put there by an extraterrestrial intelligence we called the Preservers, that was later touched upon in the 6th season Next Generation episode, The Chase. So I kind of like that. I like the idea that and of course the engineers, we saw this idea of Eric von Donigen's Chariots of the Gods was a big thing when I was a kid. The Outer Space Connection, the first Sun classic picture. If you ever saw that movie scared the hell out of me when I saw that movie. They were the same people that made The Mysterious Monsters and In Search of Historic Jesus and The Lincoln Conspiracy and the great UFO movie Hangar 18 that was directed by one of the great directors of the Star Trek TV show, the Next Generation and Enterprise and all of that. I digress. But anyway, what do you guys think? I just wanted to talk about we're leading up to Storm Area 51 Day, which is on Friday. Who knows what's going to happen? I would like to believe that we've been sitting on alien technology and aliens themselves at Area 51. I certainly wouldn't want the idiots that would storm Area 51 to disturb whatever is preserved there. I would like to believe that all of our modern technology, even what I'm talking to you on right now, is a direct result of pillaging alien technology. And there's certain forces out there that are giving it to us in drips and drabs, because if we make too many technological leaps too quickly, and some people have said we already have, like I've heard about microwave technology. That was an indication of clearly we got microwave technology from aliens. I don't think so, but it'd be cool if we did. It's like it's like when Matthew McConaughey says in Dazed and Confused, "Hey man, you got a joint?" And the guy says, "No, it would be a lot cooler if you did." I feel that way about alien technology. If you're a stoner and you're looking for a joint, you don't have one and you want one, I am a guy that wants to meet aliens and find out that we definitely have aliens and technology. I would like that. So what do you guys think? Are you planning on storming Area 51? I mean, is this something that you're into? Do you think it's something that you should be doing? I don't know. How much water do you take for something like that? How much do you carry? Don't know, but hope we're going to find out. I hope there's a lot of interesting stories that come out of storming Area 51. We shall see. But you never know. Emil Johansson says, would you eat a burger based on alien animal meat? Well, Emil, that's a very interesting question. If I knew the alien animal meat was safe, I might. But you know what? If it was a Na'vi from like Avatar, I wouldn't want to eat. I mean, I would only want to eat alien meat, if it's farm raised. No, not farm raised, naturally raised. No, it depends. I mean, would it be safe? I can't imagine, as Willow pointed out, that alien meat would necessarily be at all nutritious for human beings. Because look, here's one of the things that I find incredibly frustrating about our environment, about people. So we are products of Gaia. We are products of our entire biosphere, from the submicroscopic level all the way into the macro level. And everything on this planet, every life form that currently exists, from the bottom of the ocean to flying high in the sky, has contributed to the balance of this planet. and the balance of our planet, we're a closed system. It's not like when we spew particulate matter into the atmosphere from our factories, or you put arsenic into the groundwater, or allow mercury to pollute the environment, or things like that, that it goes anywhere. It's all part of our closed system. And human beings, especially over the last, or especially with this administration, as we are rolling back environmental concerns, why do people think that we are somehow outside of nature? There's part of our biosphere that we don't even understand how it's affected us, but clearly it's still here and we're still here. So all of our environment matters. And the idea that you can sully some of our environment and not have it have some kind of catastrophic effects on us and on every other creature and every other thing that exists on this planet is stupid. It's just a dumb idea. And I understand human beings we're locked into our very short lifespans. And even the way we perceive the world and the way we perceive the planet is based on let's say we live 8 decades each, and how we're going to enjoy those decades. And it's very, very silly. One of my favorite series of science fiction novels that remains unfinished after almost 30 years, writer David Gerrold, Star Trek writer, famous writer David Gerrold, who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles and contributed to The Next Generation, wrote one of my favorite series of sci-fi books that I've ever read. The War Against the Tor, or Chor, whatever, how you want to pronounce it. The War Against the Tor. And the premise, it's 4 books. And the premise of these books, and the reason I love them so much, is that it remains unexplained. Earth has been invaded by an alien ecosystem. And the ecosystem begins at the submicroscopic level all the way to an entirely new biosphere that is taking root and literally growing out from the equator to cover the planet. And we're losing. We're fighting a losing battle because this biosphere is millions of years more advanced than ours, if not billions of years. And there's no defense against it. And in these 4 books, and they get increasingly A Matter for Men, A Day for Damnation, A Rage for Revenge, and A Method. Is it A Method for Madness? Or maybe that's the new book that hasn't come out yet. But they're fascinating books, and I highly recommend them. Although, and it's the only series of books I've read. Like, I've read each one like 5 times. I can't even pick up one of those books without reading it and getting immersed. But they're incredible. You should read those books. But that idea that the aliens are actually an entire ecosystem is interesting. Emil Johansson says, I liked the BL doc on Netflix if you edit out Rourke. The BL doc? What am I missing there? I don't know what BL doc is. I know it's right in front of me, but I'm not seeing it. JB Bonifacio says, if it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space. Brah, come on, dude. That's Contact. I love that. That's what Ellie Arroway says to the children at the end of, actually her father, I think, said that to her, and then she says it at the end of the movie. I love Contact. I think Contact is great. I really also love the idea that the depiction of aliens in Contact, which is nebulous, we never really see them. The suggestion is they're infinitely more technologically advanced than us. My only problem with Contact, for those of you who haven't seen Contact, this is a bit of a spoiler, but the movie's over 20 years old. So if you haven't seen it, get on that. Why haven't you seen it? I love Contact. I love all the actors in Contact, but they build this machine that opens up a wormhole that sends Jodie Foster, the first human being, to go meet with these aliens from Vega. And at the end of the movie, it's like, well, do these aliens really exist? And it's all about faith versus science. And I've never understood, why don't they just fire up the machine and send a second person through? I mean, that always bothered me. They're like, well, did she really do it? Well, I don't know. Send somebody else through. It only took a second. You could dump everybody that was on the crew of those ships that they were on. They could all go through the machine and you could answer the question. Willow Yang says, have you heard of the Bollywood version of E.T. called Koi Migaya? My colleague showed it to me during our work retreat. It looks pretty cute. I have actually heard of it. I have not seen it, But yes, I mean, I don't think that there was ever a science fiction film made in America that either the Turks or the Indians have not, let's just say, emulated. And God love them for it. Starfire XXX says, is that Starfire from the Teen Titans? Because Starfire XXX, I love that. I'd like to get all triple X with Starfire, if you know what I'm saying. Sorry to bother you. Thought you may be able to help. Do you know Tony McVeigh at ILM? He made resin kits. In 2014, he Facebook posted 2 order via his AOL. Since then, he doesn't use Facebook or AOL. Do you know if he still sells models? That's a good question. I don't know, but there are a lot of model forums. I mean, whether it's 2001 modeling, Star Trek modeling, or Space 1999 modeling. I know they've all got Facebook groups, and everybody usually knows everybody in the modeling world, so go check them out. Koba says, a thing to think about is distance as well. Proxima Centauri is the closest star to us that isn't the sun. It's over 4 light years away. Now, for those of you who don't know, or maybe you do know, but maybe if you don't, a light year is the distance light actually can travel in 1 year. And light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Think about that, 186,000 miles per second. Now, I guess I'd have to whip out a calculator. I don't know the actual answer. But if you're traveling 186,000 miles per second, however far you've gone in a year is the distance of 1 light year. I can't recall that, but let's just say that's a long way. And 4 light years, to travel 4 light years means you have to travel 186,000 miles per second for 4 entire years. Let's say we have nothing remotely close to the kind of technology we would need to do that. And by the way, if you were able to travel that far, if you were able to go that many light years in a ship of some kind, it would take you more than 4 light years because you'd have to decelerate to finally get to your eventual destination. So probably take a lot longer. Mark Chure says, come on, Rob, every geek knows that every alien species is cataloged in Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. If it's not on your shelf, you're fired. Well, what Mark C is saying is he's talking about the great Wayne Barlow, and Mark C is correct. Wayne Barlow put out a book, God, I want to say 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. I got one from the Sci-Fi Book Club. I got a hardcover, beautiful hardcover, and Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials was Wayne Barlow's interpretation of aliens from famous science fiction novels. Everybody from the aliens from Childhood's End are there. It's a very cool book. And of course I have that book. How can you not? You can't grow up a science fiction fan and not have, especially a reader. If you read a lot of science fiction books, you have to get Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. And I don't even know if it's in print anymore. Is it? I don't know. So yes, Mark C, I agree. Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials is one of the great books. Nay says, if you could meet any one fictional alien character or species, which one would it be? That is a great question. Gosh, if I could meet one fictional, I would probably want to meet Q, only because the knowledge that the Q possess, the fact that they're interdimensional beings, that they have the limitless power that they have, and their knowledge of the universe, it would be really fun to meet. Like, sure, he would get annoying after a while, but I don't think he would be as interested in me as he is in, say, Captain Picard. So if I could meet anyone from the race of the Q, it would be interesting, if only because of what I could learn. I think that would be, but that's just off the top of my head. My answer, the Q I'd probably, rather go to a place where they had a lot of cool technology and everything, but I think the Q could take me on a wondrous look at the universe itself. So I would kind of dig that. I think that'd be good. But that's just off the top of my head. I don't know if that's a great answer. It's kind of a cheating answer, I think, because the Q are omnipotent. So why not? Why not go with them? The Q seems pretty good, and again, only because the knowledge. Now, as everyone knows, or maybe you don't, the Fathom events put Star Trek: The Motion Picture back in theaters yesterday. And I have to say, many of you went and saw it. And God bless you all. I've been hearing about it. I've been seeing it on Facebook. I've been seeing about it on Twitter. It's so great that everybody went and saw it. Well, remember, they're showing it again on Wednesday, on the 18th. And if you missed it on Sunday, you can still go see Star Trek: The Motion Picture in a theater on the 18th to celebrate, of course, its 40th anniversary, which is very cool. And this letter comes from Evan Newman. Dear Rob, I just got out of a theater where I saw Star Trek: The Motion Picture for the first time and just had to write you about it. I've been on a journey of watching all shows and movies Star Trek in release order since the beginning of this year, and it's all because of the praise you've heaped on the franchise. Uh-oh. I was born in 1990 and I just turned 29, so I grew up catching bits and pieces of various Star Trek shows, but I've never felt the urge to sit down and actually delve into the franchise until I started watching your chats. So thanks for that. Man, Evan, you make it all worthwhile. Thank you for that. I'm touched. I really am. I recently finished both Star Trek, the original series and the animated series, just in time for the Fathom Events screenings of the motion picture. I knew from hearing about it over the years that many viewers found the movie to be a long, boring slog, especially the theatrical cut, which is the cut Fathom screened. However, I do not share this opinion. I enjoyed the movie immensely. From the way the cast comes back together, to the way Kirk shows leadership, to the crisis confronted by mankind, to the reveal of who and what V'ger is, which I'm so happy wasn't spoiled for me, so I won't spoil it here. I just loved it. When you talk about the motion picture being the last movie to do a truly Star Trek story, now I know what you mean. Most of the episodes in the original series and the animated series were about solving problems. Sometimes there was an antagonist and sometimes there wasn't. It seems like when it comes to the franchise property over my lifetime, it's all about hero versus villain. There aren't many movies today about people working together to solve a problem or achieve a goal, like Star Trek: The Motion Picture. In the movie, our characters have aged and must relearn to trust each other and work together. Kirk takes back control of the Enterprise because he believes he is best suited to deal with the oncoming existential threat. He quickly learns, however, that the ship is unfamiliar to him after the refit, and he must lean on Commander Decker, a captain whom he recently demoted and has butted heads with. Kirk forces Dr. McCoy back into the Federation, which McCoy is none too pleased about, but Kirk admits to both Bones and a recently returning and somewhat aloof Spock that I need you. I think this is the lesson of the motion picture. In order to meet the challenges they face, individuals must move past their disagreements and work as a team. No one person can do everything, and a diverse team of experts can bring with it a diverse set of talents needed to solve a problem, especially diversity of knowledge, opinions, and backgrounds. Which, by the way, is what true diversity is. Different knowledge, different opinions, and different backgrounds. That's diversity, and that's why it's important to have. There's also a sense of wonder in the motion picture, which reminded me of science fiction films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and Interstellar. The long shots of the V'ger cloud, the refit Enterprise, and especially the shots of V'ger's ship are marvelous. Although, when it looked like Kirk and Scotty were going to make a second pass around the refit Enterprise, even I thought it was a little much. Thankfully, they were just docking. Most movies today do not take the time to show you something wondrous or sit on a shot. Instead, there are many quick edits to keep the audience's attention, apparently. I'm so glad that I saw the motion picture in a theater and see another example of how cool late 70s movies were. I'm looking forward to seeing Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan next. I actually saw it once in college, but now that I have the entire series and first movie behind me, I think I'll get much more out of Wrath of Khan when I watch it again. Thank you for reading, Rob, and I'm counting down the days to the Post-Geek Singularity get-together in London for No Time to Die. Evan Newman, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Is it Wisconsin? WI. Well, Evan, you make me shed a tear. I'm so happy. Now, I would ask, but before you watch Star Trek 2, if you haven't watched it already, to go back and do what Willow Yang did and try and find the director's edition of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's longer, but it's also edited down. So there's a lot of missing scenes, especially stuff about Spock. Really, the core of that film was sort of cut out. And if you could watch the director's edition before you watch Star Trek 2, you'll be better for it. And also, if I can recommend, if you don't have the Blu-ray, the version on iTunes, I believe, of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is the director's cut in 4K, and that is definitely very much worth checking out. So do check that out if you can. But yes, I love hearing that you went out and did that. So fantastic. Mark C says, ever find the name Department of Energy a bit disingenuous for the top secret research division of the U.S. government? Yeah, I don't know, because, energy would be nuclear. So the Manhattan Project, I don't think we've ever had a more secret, trying to unlock the secrets of the atom. So the Department of Energy, I kind of like that idea. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it is the Department of Energy. So what's going on there? But energy, after all, makes everything go round, including us. But it's again probably a lot of our great research has come through the Department of Energy, so I can see it. I can see that way. Sujith says, a car traveling at a constant speed of 100 kilometers an hour to Proxima Centauri will take 6 times the age of the universe to reach there, only to find it dead. I like that. 100 kilometers an hour to Proxima Centauri will take 6 times the age of the universe to reach there, only to find it dead. Well, Sujith, who knows if the universe will even still be here after that amount of time. I love hearing that. Razman's Reality has sent me a super chat and writes, hey, Rob, my first super chat here. I watch you with John every day you're there. I was wondering if you've seen the DS9 doc, What We Left Behind, and is it worth checking out? Well, first of all, Razman's Reality, thank you very much for supporting the channel. Thanks for the kind words about watching me with John. I appreciate that. It's fun to do. Welcome to this, what we like to call the Post-Geek Singularity here. That's the name of this community. And you, my friend, are now an official imagination connoisseur. And of course, I am, as deemed by John himself, the master of fun and wonder, your master of ceremonies, and the viceroy of verisimilitude right here. So thank you for supporting the channel. As far as the DS9 documentary is concerned, which, by the way, is now out on Blu-ray, What We Left Behind, Ira Bear, the executive producer of the show, spearheaded this documentary, and it's a wonderful, very affectionate look back at Deep Space Nine, and it was made by the people who made the show. So I really like the documentary a lot. But if you're looking for cogent analysis about what the show brought to Star Trek fans, or indeed what it meant as a piece of science fiction, as a piece of programming, as a piece of the Star Trek franchise, it's not the best thing in the world for that, because the people that made the show made the documentary. But it provides something unique as far as documentaries are concerned, because you really get a sense, like all great, whenever I interview people, I like to get a sense of who they are, and nobody cares. Like, tell me about your character. No, the viewers of the documentary know all about the character. We want to know about the people involved. And What We Left Behind does a really good job of involving, it gives you a really good sense of who these people are, and you like them even more. And I really recommend the documentary, especially if you like Deep Space Nine. I think it's a lovely piece of work, and I think it's pretty great. And again, thank you for supporting the channel. Willow Yang says, off topic, but have you ever tried durian fruit? I have not, Willow. Whenever you and I first meet, we're gonna have to have some durian fruit. You'll have to serve it to me. I mean, not like in a weird, like we'll sit down together and, I'll get it. Someone will bring it to us. I have not. But now I want to, since you're bringing it up. Let's see. I got a couple of other good letters. This is a really good letter, actually. I do like it when people follow up with other letters to further explore what we were discussing earlier. And this letter comes from Jeffrey Mao, Jeffrey Mao, who's written a lot of letters of late, and most of them are good. And this one is also quite good, and I wanted to share this with you. Dear Rob, hi, keeper of verisimilitude. After watching your show on the issues that some people have with the upcoming Midway film and its use of CGI, which is itself not bad, but perhaps the conception of the shots in which the CGI is used is in fact bad, got me thinking. What I was thinking about and what I've thought about for as long as I've been interested in the deeper aspects of motion pictures is what we're actually looking at when we watch a motion picture. Say, I love this. I love this. I know this is a deep, heady, philosophical question, but we here at the Post-Geek Singularity like to go deeper than most. And no, that's not what she said. That's in the letter. He wrote that. So Jeffrey Mao just made a "that's not what she said" joke. So good for you, sir. I applaud you. That was a good one. So here is my take on the two extremes of how to answer this question. The first is that we are aware that what we are seeing, as you like to say, in the proscenium of the screen is an enactment of events, either fictional or factual, that is artifice. It is acted by actors, staged and photographed, or rendered by technology to present an experience that, while appearing to be very real, is not. I like to use this argument to explain why the same actor can portray multiple different characters in different films, and we're okay with that. So, using this first argument, Brad Pitt could be playing a character in a movie that he can go to see a movie with Brad Pitt in that movie because that real character isn't Brad Pitt. Brad isn't the character. He is simply portraying him. No one would wonder why the character looks like Brad Pitt because in the real world of that movie, the character doesn't look like Brad. This is the argument that I would call movie equals filmed play. When we see a play, we know instinctively there is almost no verisimilitude in its physical production. The technology of motion picture production allows the producers and directors to immerse the viewer more, to allow for increased suspension of disbelief in order to remove the awareness that we have of the limitations of the stage. Nonetheless, we still know that we are watching an enactment. For the other extreme, we can say that the movie equals invisible, intangible camera, aka God's eye. What we are seeing is as if we were actually an invisible, untouchable entity who has popped into the universe of the movie and is able to see and hear whatever and wherever it wants. What we are seeing is in an absolute real world, and the camera is an objective observer. These two extreme explanations apply only to conventional fictional narrative four-wall bounded motion pictures, so no breaking the fourth wall films. Does that mean Ferris Bueller was just taken off this thing? A corollary to explanation two is the found film and mockumentary. In both cases, we as the viewer understand that what we are seeing purports to be the actual recorded imagery of the events depicted, and that the camera is a physical object in the world of the film operated by a character. It can be interacted with, dropped, picked up, turned off, and turned on. If there is one thing about found footage films, it's that the cast tends to be almost all lesser known or unknown actors. Because if we saw Tom Cruise in a found footage film, it would break all verisimilitude. Found footage films work on the conceit that the viewer is unsure of the reality of the movie being watched. That is an incredibly important point Jeffrey is making. And that is why the Blair Witch Project worked as well as it did. I love that. I'm going to read that again. all of you filmmakers who are thinking about documentary filmmaking, listen to this. Found footage films work on the conceit that the viewer is unsure of the reality of the movie being watched. Now, I would say, as somebody who worked on the Star Trek fan film Prelude to Axanar, we were kind of doing that, even though you know what you're watching is unreal. You're not sure that what you're watching is real or not, because we all know all Star Trek is not real. But we did use the not found footage, but the documentary form in the Star Trek universe, which was something that hadn't really been done before. We'd seen it done on shows like Babylon 5 or an episode of MASH, but what you're saying is really interesting. Extreme explanation 2 only works if the movie is a very straightforward one with a very objective third-person narrative stance that starts and ends with no flashbacks, visions, dreams, or impaired perspectives. No narration, no anything that could not actually be photographed by a third person, and thus the movie could very well actually be the edited result of an unseen camera following the characters around. In terms of how we as moviegoers and the movies themselves approach the question, I think with most things in life, we are somewhere in the middle. Movies of different genres and tones can veer more toward one end of the extreme. A tight, taut crime drama might be more toward extreme 2, whereas a trippy atmospheric movie will be more toward extreme 1. I'll conclude this letter, which has gone on all over the place, with something that you see in films, and I can't explain it using either explanation. I suppose you could title this letter, How to Explain Blood on the Lens. The most famous example, or at least the one that I can think of, but I'm sure there are others, is from Saving Private Ryan. I'm pretty sure that if you get any number of directors in a room, each one will give you a different opinion on if they would show blood on the lens. Because I can't think of any other substance in a film that has shown up on the lens of a camera other than blood. Water. Water shows up on the lens. Now, I'm certain that sometimes it happens because the squib just blows up and hits the lens, and the director decides to keep the shot. But other times, I'm certain that it was done on purpose. I can't justify the display of blood on the lens using either extreme explanation because neither explanation acknowledges that the camera is a physical object in the world of the events depicted. It's almost as if instead the camera, at least during the landing scene, is actually we as the viewer directly participating as an unseen soldier. The blood hitting the lens is the blood hitting us. We see also where the frame rate changes, perhaps depicting our impaired vision. When the bomb goes off next to Captain Miller, our hearing is impaired for a few seconds. It almost feels like I need a third explanation where the camera is a metaphorical representation of the viewer. So, in a short period of time, we go from extreme explanation 1, with old Ryan reminiscing back to Normandy, then to extreme explanation 2, with the handheld view as if it were really there, to a new explanation where the camera is literally we, the viewer. I think Spielberg should have gone for broke and had the camera twist away in horror at getting blood on it, then we'd know for sure. So it's clear that there's no easy answer to explain what exactly it is that we are seeing when we watch a movie. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, Jeffrey Mao. Thanks, Jeff. Jeffrey, I love this letter because I know a lot of people are like, wait, what? And for me, it's a central thing that I'm thinking about all the time with verisimilitude. I'm thinking about it always. And look, what happens when you have a movie with voiceover narration? You know, sometimes you'll end up meeting the narrator at the end of the story. It'll pop out and you'll see, like, in as far as Stand By Me is concerned, which I just watched, you basically have Richard Dreyfuss writing the story of this, and you go in and out. Really, at the beginning and the end, you see him, but when the story is over, it literally cuts to him writing the story that you've watched. And it plays with the idea of what is reality. And I love that. You know, movies like Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void, when you're seeing somebody travel, you're in someone else's point of view as they travel through the afterlife. and go back and look at things. I mean, it's very interesting, and that's why I'm obsessed with verisimilitude and creating the reality in the frame, because you can keep verisimilitude by totally violating reality. And it's when you start getting into it, I mean, philosophically, ask yourself questions of things like, when you watch John Carpenter's Halloween, everyone knows when it opens, basically, when you see if you haven't seen it, 5-year-old Michael Myers, 6-year-old, I don't know how old Michael Myers is at the beginning, but you're watching the movie through Michael Myers' point of view. Literally, he puts a mask on, or, you can see the mask coming on and the lights, the eyes. And you ask yourself, well, where's the camera? So you're supposed to believe when you watch Halloween that the movie begins with Michael Myers' point of view, which is, when you think about it, you can't capture someone's point of view on camera. I mean, now you've got Google Glass and you can do it. But at the time, when Dean Cundy is shooting a floating camera and it's supposed to be someone's point of view, how do you get that? How do you pop out? And this is a really important question as far as a movie-going audience is concerned. If you begin showing an audience, the point of view of, say, a killer, and then you famously pop out of that point of view and the camera pulls back and you see young Michael in his clown costume with the knife in his hand, and his parents are standing there going, what the hell's going on? I mean, you've gone from one point of view to a completely different God's eye objective point of view. That's pretty ballsy, and yet you buy it. You buy it. You believe it. Verisimilitude. And I think the questions that Jeffrey is posing here are really interesting ones. And anyone who starts making movies comes in, when you get water on the lens, why do they leave that there? That's it. Sometimes I think that people, like, if you watch Michael Haneke, Funny Games. If you guys haven't seen the movie Funny Games, watch the original German Funny Games. He remade it in America. He made the movie almost shot for shot in America. But I always watch the German version, because especially if you don't speak German and you're watching Funny Games, something happens in the middle of the movie that, of all the movies I've ever seen, the first time I watched Funny Games, I was like, what? As far as changing the reality of the movie that you're watching. And I understand it was more like, suddenly you're into a college philosophy course with what happens in that movie. But it was really interesting. It was really, if you haven't seen Funny Games, and when I tell you to watch something, I would hope you'd understand, don't go read about it. Like, whenever I ask you to watch something or read something, if you're interested in doing that particular thing, go see it in its purest form, or pick up the book in its purest form. Don't go to Wikipedia and read the plot synopsis. I mean, I'm telling you to watch these things because they're really great experiences to have. And if you've never seen Michael Haneke's Funny Games and you don't know anything about it, there's something in it that happens that's will make you question your beliefs of narrative, or you'll throw something at the TV screen. Up to you. You'll see, and check it out, because you owe it to yourself to watch these things for the first time and have that sense of discovery, or this sense of wonder. Just because I use the word discovery, I have an aversion to the word. I don't know why. But yeah, so check it out. But these are important questions, Jeffrey, and they're questions that I never stop contemplating. The idea of water or blood on a lens, why is it kept there? What is really being said? I mean, just to answer the question about Saving Private Ryan, I think because they were emulating the combat photography that we saw in Vietnam, they were really going after a certain perspective. Gilbert's barking because someone's coming and going. What can I do? I think it really, in that case, added to it. But again, it forces a viewer, because now, especially now when we're all used to seeing reality television, there's the perception of things has changed. Because reality television, even though people are there filming it, I know as a filmmaker and someone who's actually worked on some reality TV, it isn't real. As soon as you walk into a room with a camera, people are going to change the way they act. I don't care how good they are at it or how much money they're making. It's not like you're going to be getting something that's completely realistic. Let's see. Connor Farley is here. Connor Farley says, as a lifelong Bond fan, I may have to attend this No Time to Die meetup upon release. I had seen on a forum that the teaser will be released September 25th. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's next week. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see the first teaser for No Time to Die. Yes. So what we're planning on doing, and we've still got time to figure all the details out. No Time to Die opens in the UK before it opens here. It opens technically or theoretically, supposedly on the 3rd of April. It opens here on the 8th. When Skyfall opened, it opened 2 weeks early in the UK back in 2012. And I went, along with my friend Charlie de Lazarica, we went to London to see the first show. Look, there's press screenings. I'm sure it'll screen even a week before here. Like, I could get into the movie, but the whole fun is to go see it with a British audience, just because it's a crazy thing to do. And you'll say, this guy, and my moderator, Detective Jim Boyers, he's never left. He went to Bermuda once, or he went to the Caribbean. I think it was Bermuda. Jim Boyers, who's a retired police detective, has never left the continental United States except that one time. He's never gone to Europe. He's certainly never gone to Blighty. And, that's why super chats are important. The support of the channel. This channel is going to take Jim Boyers. We're going to buy his plane ticket. We're going to buy his plane ticket, and we're going to take him, our moderator, because I don't pay him, but I'm going to take him to London, and we're going to go, not first class, buddy. I can't. What kind of operation you think this is? But we're all going to go to see No Time to Die at the Odeon Cinema in Leicester Square. And it opens on a Friday. I've been told that they have Thursday night previews. If that's the case, we'll go Thursday. They didn't have Thursday night previews when I saw Skyfall. It was like a noon show, and it was great because like the day before, I want to say the day before, I watched them put up this Skyfall billboard. I just sat there. There I was in Leicester Square. I stayed at the St. Martin's Lane Hotel. I watched in Leicester Square as they put up the Skyfall billboard on top of the Odeon Cinema. It was just, the whole thing was just fun. I'm like, I'm in London. I'm going to go see a James Bond movie. So that's what that's all about. So hopefully Connor Farley, what a great name. I would assume you're Irish. Maybe not, but what a great name. That's a fantastic name. I've also never been to Ireland. And if I'm going, I've never been to Ireland. I have Irish blood in me. And it's funny when I'll tell you a funny story. I've told the story before, but when I was working on Fellowship of the Ring, I went to London for the first time. I mean, it was weird. I'd been to France. I'd been to Spain. I hadn't been to the UK. I hadn't been to London. So I went to London to interview Christopher Lee at the Dorchester Hotel. And we got a suite at the Dorchester because that's what you do when you're interviewing. Like Christopher Lee, it's like, we're not going to go to his house. We have a neutral piece of ground, and we interviewed him. I went by myself to interview him at the Dorchester Hotel. I hired a company called a local company called Special Treats. They handle all the camera equipment. We had a local makeup artist. I interviewed Christopher Lee, and I was going up there like I want to say 7 a.m. to the suite to help get ready, and there was a guy who was pretty hammered, who gets into the elevator with me, and he looks at me and he goes, "Are you Irish then? You got a great big ruddy Irish face." And I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. That was like the first person I met in England other than a cab driver. And I loved that somebody knew I was Irish. That was great. So I would love to go if I'm going to London, have enough time where I could skip on over because I want to go to Ireland. And I'd like to go hit a few distilleries. I mean, I had this dream of literally walking around Ireland, like literally walking around the entire country. Sure, you'd hitch rides from people and just go to every distillery that exists. Just go around all of Ireland, the whole country, and just go meet people. And I've always wanted to do that. Anyway, Evan Newman says, I'd follow your advice about watching the director's cuts of Star Trek 1 and 2, but Wrath of Khan is playing at a theater nearby tonight, so I must go. Yes, Evan, go with God, son. Go with Kirk and company. Go see Star Trek 2 in a theater. What a great, wow, to watch Star Trek the Motion Picture and Star Trek 2. There's one thing I think you're going to find. Well, I'm not going to even say. I'll let you discover it on your own. Just go discover it on your own. John Walton says, ever watch Quigley Down Under? Classic Rickman. I have seen Quigley Down Under. Now, I want to say, was that directed by Simon Windsor? Is Quigley Down Under Simon Windsor? Because I met him. I work with him on Free Willy. But man, I saw Quigley Down Under once in the theater. I haven't seen it since. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I mean, that's going back. Cinema Survey here is Cinema Survey. Is that you, Troy? Cinema Survey movie review says, do you think we'll get Hot Toys for the boys? I don't think so. Although I wouldn't mind a Homelander Hot Toy. I don't know if Hot Toys would do it, but I'm sure some company is going to do it. Maybe. Jedi Koth is here. By the way, thank you for supporting the channel, Jedi Koth. Jedi Koth says, thank you for bringing up Don't Be Afraid of the Dark the other day. I'm 48 and saw it as a young child, and those avocado-headed monsters made me terrified of the dark for years. Right? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, yes, there was a movie called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark that Guillermo del Toro produced that we saw last couple years back. It was good, but the 1973 TV movie, by the way, written, I forget his name now, written by the guy who created, it was either Waltons or Family, the TV series. It was either the Waltons or maybe it was Family. Anyway, the first thing I ever tried to buy the rights to, this is a true story, when I worked at Warner Brothers, I worked for the senior vice president of feature production. So one of the big guns at Warner Brothers. I worked for him. When I was there, I was also trying to jumpstart my career. So I was looking for material to buy. And the writer was represented by CAA, the Creative Artists Agency. And I was 22 years old. I went after the rights to Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Now, here was the thing. No one had gone after the rights for Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Now, this, to give you a time frame, this was 1988. No, this is 1989, 90. So I was going after the rights for Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Well, here's what happens. If any of you try to get the rights to a book, true story, this is a true Hollywood story. This is how the machinations of the business work. I was a nobody. The only credibility I had is I did, in fact, work at Warner Brothers. So whenever I called anybody on this kind of business, I always had the Warner Brothers switchboard to give to people and give them my number, my extension. So I'd call the Warner switchboard, and here's my extension, because I had my own office. I'm 22 years old. I had an office at Warner Brothers in the executive building. I was surrounded by all of the executives at Warner Brothers. I was in and out of virtually everyone's office. Bob Daly and Terry Semmel ran the studio that day or that time. And not only was I in and out of their office, I was also dating their assistant. Let's not talk about that. But yeah, there was a lot of shenanigans that went on. But it was an amazing place to work. And Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. It was for anybody. Clearly, Jedi Koth saw Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. You were in that sweet spot. I'm just a few years older than you. But if you saw Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, it was the scariest as a kid. Now, it's not. You'd watch it now, you'll laugh at it. But if you were a kid, not only was it one of the scariest movies ever made, but the main character lost. The avocado-headed, I love it. The avocado-headed creatures, the monsters win in the end. And that was the most horrifying thing of all, because there's no catharsis. There's no victory. The main character gets beaten and gets hauled off into nether realm. And the main character is Kim Darby, who was in the Star Trek episode Miri, the first season episode Miri, plays this housewife who is tormented by these creatures. And they talk like this. And her name's Sally. And at the end of the movie, they drag her, they win, and the camera pulls out from the basement of the house and comes out of the house, and they're like, Sally. And her voice, she's going, I am with you now. I mean, as a kid, it was horrifying. It was just horrifying. So I tried to get the rights. But so first of all, thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you for making me think of those stories, because, man, that was some good stuff. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. The new movie is handsome and it's well made, but it's just it doesn't. There was something so simple and primal about that movie, and it wasn't. as much as Guillermo del Toro, I wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it. And I didn't love it. And I wanted to love it. And I feel bad that I didn't love it. Which kind of bummed me out. So what can you do? Let's see. This is a quick one. I'm just going to read this one because I like it when people send me in things about their stuff. So I will. Oh, wait, hang on. I just lost it. I was just going to read it, and now I've lost. Oh, this comes in from Stanley Grimm. It's a quick one. Stanley Grimm says, "Greetings, Mr. Burnett. I just started a blog called the Star Infinity blog at the request of my friend. You may remember Star Infinity as the Star Trek parody that I asked you to read. I was just wondering if you would mind directing your viewers to it. The URL is Stanley Grimm. Okay. The way it's written here is Stanley, STANLEY -Grimm, GRIMM.blogspot.com. Thank you, Stanley Marcus Grimm. Stanley, I can't do that. I can't give out endorsements. I can't give out endorsements for the Star Infinity blog that is at stanley-grimm.blogspot.com. I can't do that. No, I'm just kidding. So everyone check it out. I will check it out. Thank you for writing in. And thanks for that. That's exciting. I'll have to check that out. I hope you Imaginations connoisseurs will check it out. Let's see. I'm looking at more letters. There's a lot of letters. This is an interesting letter. You know what? Since we were talking about James Bond today, I got another Bond letter, right? This comes in from Jordy Lyons. And this is the first time anybody has written to me about this subject, so I'm going to read this. Jordy Lyons wrote a letter. "Hey, Rob, big fan and supporter. Thought I would write down some tidbits for The Spy Who Loved Me. Enjoy." That's all you had to say. Spy Who Loved Me was, of course, the 1977 James Bond movie that returned James Bond to being widescreen and epic after The Man with the Golden Gun in 1974, which was shot flat. I've complained about how here the aspect ratio of the James Bond films is a big deal with me. So the aspect ratio for Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger were basically flat Academy ratio, whatever. They were not widescreen. They might have been 185, but I would imagine they were 166. The first Bond films are 166. Then we get to Thunderball, which went to widescreen. Thunderball arguably being the first sort of epic Bond with that epic action. Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Diamonds Are Forever were all widescreen epics. And then, of course, when Roger Moore took over, they went back to that not widescreen, more of a square rectangular aspect ratio with Live and Let Die and Man with the Golden Gun, which bummed me out. But then they returned to the widescreen aspect ratio where the series has lived since 1977 and The Spy Who Loved Me. Spy Who Loved Me was the first Bond movie I ever saw in the theater. I was already a big Bond fan. It came out the same year as Star Wars, of course. And what a movie that was. And of course, giving you that backstory, Jordy Lyons has sent me a letter. Albert Broccoli found it difficult to find a director for this movie. They first approached Steven Spielberg, who was in the middle of post-production with Jaws. I'm sure Spielberg could have made a great James Bond movie, but they ultimately decided against him. They also approached Guy Hamilton, who had directed the previous 3 Bond movies, as well as Goldfinger, but he left the project when he was offered to direct the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Funny enough, Richard Donner later took over Superman. Eventually, Louis Gilbert landed the directing job, having previously directed You Only Live Twice. The script also proved to be a hurdle. Going through several revisions by a number of different writers, they originally wanted to bring back Ernst Stavro Blofeld as the villain. However, Kevin McClory owned the film rights to Thunderball and refused to let them use Blofeld's character or his Spectre organization. This delayed the movie's production further. They changed the villain to Karl Stromberg, a reclusive megalomaniac, and they brought back the villain's plot to essentially take over the world. They also needed a fresh story since Ian Fleming requested them not to use any major story elements from the novel of the same name. That novel never released during Fleming's lifetime. It departed from the normal Bond novel format, written from the perspective of a young Canadian woman who spends most of the novel narrating her different love affairs while in England. Bond didn't even show up until 2/3 of the way through the book. It was the shortest and most sexually exploitative Bond novel that Fleming wrote, and he hated how it turned out. They only released it after Fleming's death, and they even released a second Spy Who Loved Me novel based on the movie's plot, written by one of the movie's final writers, Christopher Wood. Eon Productions, he also wrote Moonraker. Eon Productions also struggled to find the lead Bond girl, Anya Amasova, Agent XXX, a KGB agent who works with Bond through most of the film. Barbara Bach was cast only 4 days before filming began. She didn't even realize her role would be a major one, treating her audition as if they expected her to play a bit part. They didn't want to repeat what they did for the volcano base in You Only Live Twice, which set designer Ken Adam described as a workable but ultimately wasteful set. But at the same time, there didn't exist a studio large enough to house the interior of Stromberg's supertanker, the Laparis. Construction began in March of 1976 of a new soundstage at Pinewood, dubbed the 007 stage, for $1.8 million. To complement the stage, they also built a water tank that could hold over 1 million gallons, or 5,500,000 liters of water. The stage was so big that cinematographer Claude Renoir couldn't effectively light it due to his deteriorating eyesight. As such, Stanley Kubrick visited the production in secret to advise how to light the stage. The oil company Shell offered to lend an abandoned tanker for the production, but insurance costs got so high, they decided to use miniatures instead. Great miniatures. The miniatures in Spy Who Loved Me are some of the best miniatures done for the franchise. The movie features a car that could transform into a submarine, and to accomplish this, they built several models during its different phases of transformation. One model was actually a working car-shaped submarine. Other filming locations included Egypt, where shooting at the location of the Great Sphinx of Giza created lighting problems, forcing the use of further miniatures. Despite all of this movie's production problems, the end product is well worth it. The Spy Who Loved Me is pretty much universally agreed upon as the best Roger Moore movie, and it's arguably up there with the best Bond movies, period. Totally agree with that. It features what might be the best skiing action scene in the franchise, and every Bond actor's got at least one skiing action scene. You know what? It's a great ski sequence, but I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and especially the sequence in For Your Eyes Only, are the best. It's got pretty much everything you want in a Bond movie, like great villains, an impressive gadget car, great performances all around, and enough plot twists to keep you guessing, at least on your first watching. In any case, viewers haven't seen The Spy Who Loved Me. I won't spoil too much about the actual plot. What I will say is that the villain's plot feels like the kind of story that would work in one of the later Sean Connery movies. It's epic in scale, and Stromberg is dangerous enough that MI6 and the KGB agree to work together fairly early on. It also introduces Jaws, a professional killer who is not only extremely tough, but is the only Bond villain in history to survive 2 movies. Jaws is awesome, by the way. That's him writing, not my editorializing. This is not only by far the deadliest of the Roger Moore Bond movies, but the second deadliest Bond movie overall, only beaten by You Only Live Twice. Even though Roger Moore has the lowest average kill count per movie in the franchise, there are only 2 other movies where Bond kills 31 people or more. The Spy Who Loved Me, I didn't know that. The Spy Who Loved Me is a great Bond movie and clearly demonstrates that even if a lot of the Roger Moore Bond movies leave much to be desired, they were never Moore's fault. He's great in the role, and this movie shows Moore's Bond performance at his prime. The action is often exciting, and the plot feels like a classic Bond plot in all the right ways. The music and visuals received 3 Academy Award nominations, and for good reason. A lot of the sets would still be impressive today. If you only see one of the Roger Moore Bond movies in your life, make sure it's this one. Well, Geordie Lyons, I want to say, that might be a little out of left field. I love this letter. Thank you for writing it. I love Spy Who Loved Me. It's absolutely one of my very favorite Bond movies. And also, if you like 70s disco music, Marvin Hamlish's Bond 77 theme that's playing with the electric guitars, it's awesome. And I loved, when I was a kid, I only listened to movie soundtracks for the longest time, and I started collecting movie soundtracks because of Jaws, and then, of course, Star Wars. But The Spy Who Loved Me, I played that record to death. And one day, my friend Craig actually has a vinyl 12-inch remix of the Bond 77 theme on vinyl. He still has it. One day I'm going to break into his house and steal it because I should own it. Emmy is here. Hello, Emmy. I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? Emmy is here. She says, when you end up in Ireland, be sure to visit County Cork and don't miss Kinsale, Ring of Kerry, and Gap of Dunlow in Kerry. I lived in Kinsale for a bit. Well, I would definitely like to go there. I will take you up on that. Timbula the Spider Monkey is here. Says, speaking of Christopher Lee, what's your favorite Hammer film? I'm a sucker for Frankenstein created women. Well, Timbula, as you might know, I was on a Quatermass kick. I have them here. They're all Hammer movies. I got to show them again because you know what? Why not? So Quatermass, the Quatermass Experiment that comes from Kino Lorber and the Two Shout Factory, Quatermass 2 and Quatermass and the Pit. This is one of Hammer's best movies. This is one of Hammer's first sci-fi. It's one of their first horror films, really. I've always loved the Quatermass movies, but my favorite Hammer movie, I have to say, is Vampire Circus. I know. I love Vampire Circus. I can't get enough Vampire Circus. And I believe Don May over at Synapse. I think it was Synapse. I don't know. It's all a blur. I can't remember everything. There is a beautiful Blu-ray transfer, and boy, I didn't realize the Blue Animal Woman how explicit that actually got. I mean, they didn't mean to get it, but look, if you haven't seen my two, actually I have two. The Devil Rides Out and Vampire Circus are my favorite Hammer movies. I love the Karnstein Vampire trilogy. I love The Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, and Twins of Evil. Love those. You know, I like Frankenstein created women. I like the Dracula films as well, but they're not my favorites. But I do love all the Hammer horror movies in general. I mean, I'll watch anything. And I think it's sad that kids today don't know their Hammer films. It's kind of a bummer, to be honest. Kind of a bummer. But yeah, so anyway, Jordy, thank you for that letter. I thought that was pretty good. About Spy Love Me. I quite enjoyed that. Let's see if anybody else has. I'm trying to keep up. I'm wired today, as you can see. Talking about aliens has just got me all at Twitter. Mike Hill is here. Mike Hill asks, what's it like being the master of fun and wonder? Okay, for those of you who don't know, it's really interesting. Somebody actually wrote me a very heartfelt, I think it was Twitter, maybe it was direct message. They didn't like me calling myself the sanctimoniously notorious. I don't even know why I started doing it, or the notoriously sanctimonious. They felt that I was doing myself a disservice. And it was just something to say. But John Campea last week, I believe it was last week on the John Campea show, declared that I am the master of fun and wonder. And who am I to say no? I like that. I'm the master of fun and wonder, or I'm the viceroy of verisimilitude, or the gatekeeper. I was also called the gatekeeper of verisimilitude, but I like the viceroy of verisimilitude. I have to get somebody to make a shirt with some logo that I can sell, in the Burnettwork store. No one's buying my t-shirts, by the way. I gotta promote them. I don't promote them, but yeah, I do love those terms. But what's it like being the master of fun and wonder? It's pretty great. I mean, I always go back to use a genre film, or not a film. Well, I guess it's a film. A literary reference, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I don't think this is actually I don't know if this is in the TV series or it's in the film. I know they're doing a new TV series. It's got to be in there. One of my favorite things ever is the idea of the total perspective vortex. I think the Vogons were using it. Were the Vogons using it? I'm not sure. So in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's a thing called the total perspective vortex. And it is a torture device that is used to shatter your mind. Because what you do is they put you into the total perspective vortex and you see yourself in relation to the infinitude of the heavens, of the universe. And anybody, like I personally went through an existential crisis once when I was working on Star Trek The Experience, because the Hubble telescope, I think it's called the Deep View, is the Deep View photograph. And it's a picture. It looks like it's a bunch of stars in the sky, but it's not. It's actually galaxies. And, as a space freak and as a science fiction fan and knowing a little bit about science, this picture, I put it up in my edit bay before they moved me into a closet. I had a room where I was editing all of the videos for the Star Trek Experience. And I put this picture up and it really put me in a funk. Like I needed therapy. I was looking at this picture, this folder. I think it was in National Geographic. I think. So I had this deep view. It's called something. It's deep view is not right. Whatever it's called, I'm not sure. But I put this picture up on my edit bay wall, And I had to finally take it down because it was my own total perspective vortex. And I had already known what the total perspective vortex was from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the great radio show. So what happens is they take Zaphod Beeblebrox, the president of the galaxy, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, Zaphod Beeblebrox, who took the heart of gold, who picked up Trillian, stole Trillian away from Arthur Dent, you know, and Zaphod Beeblebrox gets thrown into the total perspective vortex. And when you see yourself in relation to the rest of the universe, it's supposed to shatter your mind. So anyway, they open it up, and Zaphod Beeblebrox gets out, and the guard is sort of like, you've been into the vortex? He's like, yeah, yes, I have. And you've seen yourself in relation to the rest of the universe? And Zaphod's like, yep, yes, I have. Well, and what did you discover? And then the way I remembered, Zaphod says, what I knew all the time, that I'm a really great guy. Didn't I tell you? I am Zaphod Beeblebrox. And I was like, all right. Well, that is not what happened. When I literally was facing this photograph, and I don't know if it was, I normally don't get in a funk, but I was looking there, and I was not the master of fun and wonder. I was like, why am I doing this? You know, I'd convinced myself that it was a lifestyle choice. I try and be happy. Sometimes I crack under the pressure, but I try and be happy and, you know, lead a good life and do good things. I've been lucky to do lots of cool things. But at the time when I was looking at this picture, when you're trying to contemplate that you're looking at how many galaxies and how many stars are in each galaxy, when you really start thinking, I got totally depressed. And I was like, I'd made Free Enterprise. I'd worked on some short films. I directed. I hadn't made Free Enterprise yet. This is what led up to me actually making Free Enterprise. So I hadn't directed a movie yet. And I was working on the Star Trek experience, and I'd done a lot of cool stuff professionally. But as I looked at this picture, I'm like, there is nothing that I can do. There's nothing in my life. It doesn't matter what it is. I could go have a Brady Bunch brood of 6 kids. There's nothing I could do in my life that is worth anything, because you look at this picture of all the galaxies, and you see the galaxies distilled into that photo. There are no movies. But you know what saved me? You know what saved me from going crazy, from like getting totally depressed and getting it totally into an existential funk I never would have crawled out of? There's an episode of UFO. Yes, that's right. Jerry Anderson's My Beloved UFO. And in this episode, they send a probe is able to track a UFO back to its homeworld, which, I mean, the science there is a little sketchy. And they get pictures back. And they realize the pictures, they don't have any way to judge what kind of a lens was being used, and they have no way to judge something malfunctioned on the camera. So they have no idea how far away or how close the pictures were. They didn't have perspective. They weren't able to, so the pictures were essentially useless. And for whatever reason, that pulled me out of my funk, an episode of UFO, all about the idea of perspective and what you can see. And that's when I realized, you know, the only thing that matters in your life is your perspective on your own life. So by me looking at this picture of the universe and getting depressed about it was utterly ridiculous. It was silly. It wasn't even my view of the universe. It was the Hubble telescope's view of the universe, and from our vantage point. So after I realized, you know what, I'm working on the $80 million Star Trek experience in Las Vegas, and I'm the only human being on the planet Earth that is being paid to edit all of the Star Trek videos that are going to be in this Star Trek experience. I'm the only one. Of the billions of people on planet Earth, I'm the only one that for that particular job was able to do that thing. And that's when I realized I didn't know what I was called, but that's when I became the master of fun and wonder. And that's why I'm so excited about being an imagination connoisseur today, because think about it. All we have is fun and wonder around us. It's a lifestyle choice. And I understand I'm doing a disservice. I don't understand what it's like to be clinically depressed. I don't even have a prescription of any kind in my bathroom. I don't know what that is. You know, and I know that's not most people. But I'm just telling you, that's what it's like for me to be the master of fun and wonder. There's always something exciting. There's always something interesting. There's always something to be excited about. And, you know, it's a lifestyle choice. You have to choose to do that. Some days it's harder than others. So that's what, there you go. There's a long answer from me. Magic K says Discovery won an Emmy despite all the behind the scenes drama. Yeah. And it also won a Saturn Award, you know, and that's good. That's good for them. That doesn't mean I have to say it's good. I'm happy for the crew for winning. That's always a good thing. It's always nice to get honored by your peers, that kind of thing. That's always a good thing. So yeah, and I don't want to ever take anything away from anybody winning an award, because I think that's great. So yeah. Well, anyway, I think I've answered everyone's questions. I've gotten through the letters I wanted to read today. We've talked aliens. I think I'm going to bring this lovely chat to a close. First of all, I want to thank my moderators, whether it's the Honorable Mayor of Riverdale, Iowa, Mike Bodden, whether it's Detective Jim, who is a real former police detective, and of course the Sheriff of Nottingham himself, Terry, in the UK, and Greg Smith, who literally, he not only built his own house, which you can see in the very first episode of Robservations, or you can see him cosplay. Greg Smith, who is now building a 1-to-1 scale snowspeeder for the Emerald City Comic Con, which is amazing. I want to thank them. I want to thank all of you who keep writing me letters and those who support the channel, both via super chats and also at the website at theburnettwork.net. The Burnettwork.net, man, people, it's blowing up. Thanks for sending me letters there. Thanks for interacting there. People publish. There's the 3-word movie review, which you can put for an old movie, a new movie, whatever. There's the Imagination Connoisseur Gallery. If you're doing anything cool, there's lots of cool stuff there that people have posted. Please feel free to go to the website and do that, because it's all very much appreciated. But most of all, what's most appreciated is having you guys here, you imagination connoisseurs that make up this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. I can't thank you enough. And this is by far the best community, the best genre community on the web. I mean, after all, there aren't any other masters of fun and wonder. I'm bringing the news. I'm bringing opinions with a smile on my face, and you guys are having fun. Jeffrey Mao asks, Rob, were you at Warner Brothers when Batman 89 came out? No. I started at Warner Brothers right afterwards. Batman came out in June of 89. I started working at Warner Brothers in September of 89. So I was not there at the time, which was kind of a bummer. So everyone, I want to thank you all for being here, and keep those letters coming. You know, if you've got plot suggestions. And by the way, if you are planning on storming Area 51 this week, please send me video, give me updates. I want to know what happens, because maybe it's going to be first contact day. Maybe the aliens will decide to reveal themselves on the 20th of September. Who knows? Or everybody's going to die in the desert in a hail of bullets or dehydration. Who knows? Anyone who tries, I wish them well. Good luck, Godspeed, all of those things. I think perhaps there are better uses of your time, but it certainly would be interesting. And anyway, I bring this chat to a close, as I always do. Every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I say, please don't storm Area 51. But with that, I say, have a better day.